Do you think that it's bad to be a billionaire?
I think that there's problems that occur. Extreme wealth accumulation causes problems within society and systems. And I do think that having a measure where you prevent that from happening would lead to better outcomes.
I agree.
Yeah. It's not, I don't, I feel uncomfortable with the extreme that people will take it to where they'll be like, oh, you have $1 billion, so therefore you must be part of or taking advantage or dissuading people. That's not necessarily true.
Hmm.
But the idea of having a huge amount of wealth in comparison to other people in society leads to problems.
Yeah, yeah. I think the same thing happens with corporations, not just like individuals. Like
Yeah,
for
no, it does happen to corporations.
like
You're right.
we literally have problems with corporations where they commit effectively crimes, right? And then they're found guilty of it, and then rather than the company going under as it should, right? Like they should literally be fined at the value of the company, right? Instead, they go through some type of reformation process. And the only reason the government is even willing to engage in something like that is for the sake of the workers and the employees because so many people will be put out of a job all at once, right? And I think that that is a tragedy. We shouldn't be in a society where, there's this concept in business like too big to fail, right? Because the government will bail you out if you fuck up. I think that that's insane that we allow that to happen, right? Like,
It's so no, finish off. I don't want to cut you off.
yeah, yeah. So I just think that that's bad. Yeah.
It's complicated. On one
It
hand,
is.
I agree with the thrust of what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, the idea that you could have like a major corporation get so big to where we this that community essentially becomes dependent on it, and
Mm-hmm.
now you are funneling money into it in order to make it one's way of life. Yeah, no, that's a problem.
Yeah.
However, consider this also happens on the industrial side of it. Well, not I
Yes.
wouldn't say side, but on an industrial scale of the matter, commercial,
Mm-hmm.
industrial, similar in terms of scale of what we're talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
in this effect, how the government would even regulate these businesses in the first place would be via these measures. For
Mm-hmm.
example, yes, I don't think that a monopoly is bad, or well, in a lot of cases, commercially speaking, having a monopoly over something is a pretty bad thing. Hence why we have laws against it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some circumstances where that's unavoidable. For
Yeah.
example, power. You have power companies that provide power to a local region.
Mm-hmm.
It is not practical to have a power station every 10 miles.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not realistic. So
Yep.
you have one power station for like a region that everyone's having to pay to or pay as a part of.
Yep.
That's a monopoly, but it's necessary in this case.
Yep. No, I agree. I agree. And yeah, that's. I think that when a company gets too large, where they have basically become a monopoly or a semi-monopoly or something, then there should be a required forceful contractualization of them turning into like a utility company, right? Because like for example, there was a point in America where we realized that transit of information was going to be incredibly useful in the future. This is when they invented the telephone, right? And the United States engaged in something that is very unheard of. They literally voted to create a monopoly. And that's how Bell Labs was started. They were literally started as a monopoly, right? Um, but there were certain requirements. All of their research had to be publicly available. It had to be open and published. They had to do certain requirements, such as, for example, everyone in the United States had to have lines built for them. So every single city in the entire United States had to be reached by Bell Labs. Like these were particular requirements that were set forth, right? And because of that, America like accelerated into the information age far faster than most other countries, which is why the United States literally sits as head on the top 25 information boards, whether you're talking about like who's writing the standards of chips or who's coming up with the standards of internet protocols or who's the one that defined how phone protocols work. Like all of this happened in the United States because of the monopolization that was set up and put in the first place, right? So on the one hand, I think that this is a very good thing, right? But on the other hand, it's also something to be incredibly skeptical of, right? We shouldn't allow unchecked monopolies to exist, and we shouldn't allow corporations to get too big to fail. But that's why I would aim for something like, if you are too big to fail, then you're required to enter into a contract, a forced contract of as a utility company, effectively, right? Because like we can't have we can't have these systems where you have a
Ça
company that has to be bailed out, because they gamble money or something, right? Like this is insane.
Who spoke just then. Yeah, I would agree with you in broad strokes. There's going to be a balance that needs to be had. You need to maintain the quality and the availability of a particular service that's needed for society, while
Mm-hmm.
still also acknowledging that in terms of private and also public businesses and utilities, there should be a talk about how much of a control one particular entity has over a particular service or utility. When it becomes something that, like, quite literally everyone is born with, that's no longer something that you should leave up to private enterprise. And you should probably break up or even uh, nationalize that industry or that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
service.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
However, a bit gray, but
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very complicated. It's certainly not a trivial process, and I don't think it's something that can just be done lightly. What I see is the things like I think it's easiest just to note the things that are bad and then note the things that are good, right? Like Bell Labs was incredibly good, right, up until the destruction of AT&T, right? At that point, right, AT&T had for decades started engaging in things that were not to the benefit of their own business or people. They were engaged in things like suppression of technologies. They made it to where like things like uh, you know, answering machines are not allowed, right? Like they did all this shit to like make it very complicated and convoluted, and the right thing to do was to break up the company and sell off all the pieces and all the research, right? And that literally spawned a whole new set of stuff. We got answering machines, we got phones, we got wireless phones, like we got all kinds of shit that we didn't have, right? Um,
Mm.